Okay. Rabbi Graver gave me this topic, why Bethel. I'm sure what I'm going to say is going to be what a lot of the rest of you will hear, at least it'll resonate with you, if not the exact facts that I'm telling you. Why Bethel? Well, an easy answer is that I grew up in a Bethel in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. My parents were active members. Coming to this Bethel was just following the path that they had put me on many years ago. But that would ignore a gap of about 20 years when there was very little Bethel or any synagogue in my life. Typical of almost all Jewish adolescents at that earlier time, I may not have attended a single Shabbat service in my 3 years of high school. We did stay out of school for the Jewish holidays, both the high holidays and festivals, but that didn't necessarily lead to attending services. And I did belong to a Jewish high school fraternity, social fraternity, but that existed in response to exclusion from Christian ones, not as a dedication to religiosity. Following my parents' lead, I did involve myself in the Zionist cause, which meant some fundraising to a youth campaign. My bar mitzvah, this will tell you how old I am. My bar mitzvah was just a month before the State of Israel was established in 1948. But my Shabbat mornings during high school years were devoted to managing a citywide hour-long radio program involving students from all three of our high schools. And college, graduate school, and even my early years on the UNC faculty were also without synagogue involvement. Aside from studies, my years as an undergraduate and as a graduate student were filled with playing bridge, working on my college newspaper sports staff, and involvement in the civil rights movement. When I came to UNC, Bethel was the only synagogue, and way over in Durham, it was a long distance through an operator even to call from Chapel Hill. There was Hillel in Chapel Hill. In the late 60s, I did start attending a Shabbat study group and worship group led by philosophy professor George Schlesinger, an Orthodox Jew for whom he gathered as many males as he could to provide a minyan most Saturdays. Rabbi Frank Fisher was head of Hillel then. Two of the other Hillel participants were sons of Jewish professors at UNC, Peter Morrison and Stanley Greenberg. The Greenberg lecture later on this year is named after his parents. Their parents and perhaps a few other local Jewish faculty member families invited me to dinner on occasion, maybe even on Friday nights. But though some were Bethel members, they made no obvious effort to get me to join. It was the life event of my father's death in 1970 and my aging out of Hillel participation that prompted me to join Bethel. Rabbi Herbert Berger presided at that time over a congregation that was evolving from local business leadership to predominantly academic membership. I served on the Bethel board for a couple of years in the 70s, where local race relations and female participation in services were unresolved issues for discussion. Nearing the end of the decade, Berger was no longer the rabbi, and the congregation took the unprecedented step of hiring a rabbi from the Reconstructionist Seminary in Philadelphia, Stephen Sager. This leads me to what are my most significant personal Bethel moments. Meeting my wife-to-be Jane at the reception for the new rabbi in August 1978, and his officiating at our wedding in this sanctuary the following June. I must mention the matchmaking role that Gladys Siegel almost played in this. Almost. Jane had lived in an apartment in the Siegel house. Gladys gave me a slip of paper with Jane's name and phone number a year on or so earlier, encouraging me to call her. I did not, and found the slip of paper in a seldom used sports jacket only after we were married. Still, Gladys, who made Jane's wedding veil, and we were proud to have that almost connection. In the 80s, our kids were born, and in subsequent years, up to the end of the century, Bethel became more and more the center of our lives, as both Felissa and William went through the religious school and had their B'nai Mitzvot here. This helped to develop and cement many friendships with fellow congregants whose kids were contemporaries of ours. In the early days when our kids were young, we mainly attended Friday evening services, which were shorter. As they advanced in religious school and there was a period when there were no regular services on Friday night, we switched to Saturday mornings. This has been our regularly scheduled Shabbat activity for over 30 years now. It really is a special feature of our weekends and affords us the pleasure of meeting friends and lots of new people, some of whom are now part of our close friendship circle. And while I often am troubled by the contents of the day's Torah portion, I look forward to the Musaf Amida, where I can concentrate on my prayers to God for a world of compassion and peace. One other life cycle event I must mention is our daughter's wedding in 2010, 10 to be exact, that was her choice. It was the year between Rabbi Sager's retirement and Rabbi Graber's arrival. The wedding was in the country about 30 miles west of here. The kosher catering for it was done in the Bethel kitchen, and Rabbi Sager was one of two officiants. Bethel has become the major force nurturing Tikkun Olam instincts in me and providing opportunities to channel those instincts into action. I've been a regular Kavod Kadisha participant for many years. I haven't worked on a Tahar since Gibby Katz's death, but I'm pretty regular Shomer. I've been second in command to Gladys and the Ornsteins for Bethel Chapel Hill Crop Oil campaign that provides funds for the hungry locally and worldwide. While chair of the Synagogue Life Committee, I helped facilitate a decade of Torah of the Elders programs, honoring such distinguished congregants as the Lakins, Albrecht Strauss, the Myerses, and Joel Fleischman. We also sent out holiday packages to members' children away at college. With Rhoda Silver, I spent a decade helping a disabled, widowed congregant manage to live in her own home until she tragically died from a fire. And I'm currently involved with a group that gathers to agonize over and think of possible solutions to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The group was spawned by Rabbi Graber's Hartman Institute-inspired program last year. Credit goes to Bethel affiliation for these chances to try to be a better person. I trust that my 50 years have made up for the 20-year gap from my earlier Bethel life. Thank you.